to our workshop. We're going to talk today about the 4-H after school and summer program. This is something that I sort of started working on early on with Dr. Pienta, and we were headed down one road to try to do it with the Boys and Girls Club, and we were just trying to look at all the different avenues we could find to do such a program. And we kind of wanted to model what we did after what limited thing that we have down in Panacea. And out of that, we said, well, let's try to make it bigger and better, especially for Panacea. And then if we can, let's do the same kind of program in Crawfordville. So as we kept going, we saw that the Boys and Girls Club was very costly, so we backed up from that. And Dr. Pienta then heard about a program they have over in Taylor County. So I think that's what we're going to kind of model this after, and she's going to talk more about that tonight. So I'm going to let her do the presentation. I think this is an important program that we need to invest in our youth. I think we all agree to that. I think there's probably two categories of people that I think are the most important to us, and that's our youth and our senior citizens. And certainly we need to do, I think, a better job of trying to facilitate programs for our youth, especially as we're growing. And I've had a lot of calls about such a program and what they can do, what parents can do, because now, we live in a society where parents have got to work two jobs. Both of them have got to work a job. Some have to work two jobs to make ends meet. Many don't have dads in the house or moms in the house. They're single parents, and they need, while they're at work, they need some reliable, good program to influence their kids in a positive way. So that's why I wanted to head down this road. And Rachel, we'll turn it over to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart.
So I do want to recognize a couple people who came today. Two of our 4-H volunteer leaders, I think most of you know them from Panacea. They have been running a youth program for elementary and middle school students now since January 2019. So Cherie Posey Miller and Rhonda Crum-Lundy are here.
Thank y'all.
So they have other volunteers who help them, but the lion's share of organizing and planning and keeping it going has fallen on the shoulders of those two ladies as volunteers. So countless hours in service to the youth of Panacea. So how I'm going to do this today is to go over some basics about why we're going with this model and why it matters. And then I'm also going to call on Greg James to go over some numbers for you. For those of you who don't know, Greg has been very involved in 4-H since I came on board in 2017. He has chaired our advisory council. He's now acting as vice chair while Commissioner Messersmith is our chair. And Greg actually has led a 4-H club as well and has done a lot of hands-on work with our youth. So very familiar with the program. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit first about why 4-H may be different than what we've done in the county in the past. Because we've had youth programs before, different models. We've had 21st century learning, we've had ounce of prevention, and varying levels of evidence-based youth development, high quality types of programs. 4-H has been tested over many years. It's been in existence for more than 100 years, and it has over time used the best of research from land-grant institutions across the nation to basically create high-quality youth development that has a lasting impact. So we're not warehousing kids, we're not babysitting kids, we're creating high-quality experiences on things that matter, that they can take with them their whole life. Hands-on science, agriculture, cooking, real skills. Now let's see if I have a real skill in using this PowerPoint thing. Ooh, that was easy, yay. So some of the research that we have found is that when you implement high quality youth program, it actually has an impact far beyond that program. It impacts the community, it impacts family life, it impacts school performance. In fact, we've seen this with the Panacea program. The staff at MedArt and McCullough Middle School, as well as the school board, have reported to us that the youth involved in our 4-H program are showing significant improvements in behavior in school. They're attending school more frequently, and also their grades and reading scores are going up. And that's huge for the school system, and I think huge for our community to see that in the time that we've put up the program that we have, which is only 1 day a week, it's not the 5 days a week we're talking about, but that we've already made inroads into some of the challenges in the community. So I'm going to talk about a few technical things tonight: positive youth development and socio-emotional learning. These are basic tenets of the program. Basically, it's the foundation that we build our programs on. And it's important because, one, it's been tested over many years, and we've seen positive outcomes, as I mentioned previously. Ooh, did I just too many? I might have done too many. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something also called the 5 C's, which I'll explain in a moment. But we're talking about how children react to all the people around them. These are relational developmental systems. And if you spend some time down in Panacea with the children that we've been serving, for example, you will see children who've been with us a while and are doing well versus children who've come in recently. There's a difference in how they interact with other people because social skills have not been well developed. So when you're living in a high-stress environment and you have a perceived notion of scarcity of resources, maybe it's lack of access to food or whatever that you value and that you feel like you're not getting, then there's a sense of anxiety that rises. You don't really understand how to share. You get very irritable and you're worried that there won't be enough for you, which is something that we've seen when we're providing children with snacks or special activities or feeding them the hot meal that we feed them every week. So continuing with that is this idea of social emotional learning. Now, our programs that we run as community programs in Crawfordville, where we have clubs that meet once or twice a month, or we do a summer camp that meets for a week at a time, or we take youth to an overnight camp, we're definitely developing these skills with those children. Those children, for the most part, if their parents are taking the initiative to sign them up and drive them somewhere once a week, making the commitment to bring them to camp, then often those children have some foundation to build on. And I'm making this contrast because I think it's important to understand that we have different models of delivery based on where we're delivering services in the county. So Panacea, we have a little more work to do. Okay, so some of the things that are listed here, these are our goals, right? And this is what we try to do in the program. So again, it's not just coming off the bus and we give them a ball and say, go play in the field. We actually do activities. We do hands-on things. So we bring in someone to teach them how to cook. We actually review ideas about nutrition and wellness when we're cooking. We've done archery, arts and crafts. We've had scientists come in. We've had FWC come in. We've also brought in law enforcement to do different programs, such as a bicycle rodeo. So all of these things add up. The accumulated experience and social capital that we build up with these children adds up. So I know we always focus on the dollar and cents, like it feels good to talk about this stuff, and we certainly are happy when we help children, but does it make financial sense? Research shows that it does, that investing in our youth now pays dividends in our community later. Now, I think that if Sheriff Miller were here today, he would tell you that it absolutely does, and that investments in youth programs mean that he's arresting fewer youth, he's seeing a reduction in crime, a reduction in drug use. We did, as you know, we did partner on a grant, which I'm still waiting to hear about, drawing on the research based on this, that if we want to attack things in the county like prevalence of opioid abuse and other drug addiction, that we can't just attack it from the punitive side where we're rounding up the adults who are committing the crime. We have to do prevention and intervention at the youth level if we're going to break the cycle and really get the community out of that. So this is one way to do it. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm skipping slides. So I do also want to draw your attention to one of our other partners in the county, which is CareerSource. Part of what 4-H does is help to fill the gap on soft skills for workforce development. So not only are we doing intervention and prevention, we're also doing preparation for adult life in the workforce. And something that employers have said, and some of you may see this, if you're hiring someone right out of high school or even right out of college, do they know how to answer the phone? Do they know how to do customer service? How good are they at basic problem solving at things that happen in the workplace? If you've hired someone recently who's younger, you probably have noticed that they need a different type of training than an older worker might, because those soft skills are missing, which is based again on relationships and interaction. So the other piece to this is that we are supporting our workforce when we provide programs. So this is where the county steps in and has a role in that. I think we all saw what happened to the workforce in this county when we shut schools down or when we didn't have summer camps running. So it becomes a stressor. So providing an after-school program that is regular or a summer program that is regular does provide that workforce support and also impacts the entire quality of living for the county. So it is something that can be pointed to as an accomplishment for the county when we say that this is something that we do, and how does it relate to, for instance, being a place that is good to come and buy a house or to establish a new business in. Here I'm going again. Okay, so what does 4-H look like today? We have community programs which meet once or twice a month depending on the club. Some meet more frequently than others depending on their subject area. Panacea 4-H, when we're in normal functioning, we're still coming out of COVID right now, so our functioning is not 100% yet. But normally Panacea 4-H meets every week. So it is the club that meets most frequently. We also do summer camps, and we do a mixture of summer camps. We do 1 week specialty camps, cooking, archery, STEM engineering, horticulture. It changes year by year depending on what the customer demand is. We also take youth for a week to overnight camp. And we have in the past taken Panacea youth. We take them on scholarship. Our Panacea youth have not paid to attend overnight camp. That is a very much transformative experience. Some of these children have never been away from Wakulla County before. And to go to a camp for a week where it's geared for kids and it's all about them and they don't have to worry about anything. There's a schedule, it's safe, they get fed like every couple of hours, lots of good food, and it's utopia for kids. I would like to provide that for more kids. We have 30 spots as Wakulla County to take, and I've used 1/3 of those spots for Panacea. We also do enrichment programs. I mentioned to some of you like Tropicana public speaking competition. We also bring Project Learning Tree into the school, and we do other things by request of the school as well, like a supporting gardening in the school, for instance. Okay, I referred a little bit earlier to the positive outcomes in Panacea. We actually started in 2018. We started with a 2-day-a-week summer program, and youth met in Woolley Park. We used the overhang at the stage down there to have some shelter, but we provided 6 hours of programming a day, had different guests and activities, provided them snacks and lunch, and we averaged 25 kids a day for eight weeks over the summer. That was our first indicator that there was definitely a market to provide services down there. Now, in the fall of 2018, you may remember we had this little thing called Hurricane Michael. that slowed our roll on this program a little bit. So we were able to start the 1-day-a-week program in January 2019, continuing that until we were interrupted by coronavirus in March. Did I miss one? Okay. So I mentioned earlier that we have written a grant focused on Panacea, and that we are in the process of waiting for that. I just checked the website today. The 2020 grant awards still have not been made. They have till September 30th. So definitely keep the grant in your prayers because it's competitive. It is national. If we were to get that grant, it would actually fund the Panacea part of this proposal, a portion of it, about $97,000 annually for 36 months, so 3 years. So that said, you have all been given a white paper that kind of fleshes out some more of the details and nitty-gritty about some of the research and also some of the impact in Panacea. So I'm not going to read that to you because you're all super intelligent and prepared, but I'm certainly willing to answer questions about it. Ooh, go there. But what we're going to do next is to go over numbers and talk about different ways to do what we're proposing, because there's the option to mount a program all at once between 2 locations. Panacea is going to continue in some form regardless of what we decide here today. The issue is, can we provide a high-quality program in Crawfordville at some point at the community center, in addition to the community clubs and camps that we're already doing at the extension center? So basically providing some parity across the county in programs. We don't have the capacity to bus everyone down to Panacea. Space isn't large enough and really wouldn't work for our parents in terms of how the geography of our county is. So we know the population centers in Crawfordville. So knowing that programs have been received and used in the past and we currently don't have those types of programs, can we bring that back? What we're going to talk about today is how to scale up and how to pay for it. So Greg is going to go over numbers with you. I did also give you the boys and girls proposal that we started with just as a basis for comparison, because I wanted you to understand what we looked at before we started going down this road. And the Boys and Girls Club was not for as many students as we're proposing to serve. So to scale up to the capacity that we're talking about, the numbers would have to be scaled up exponentially to match that. Well, and then, yes, I wanted to give you just some pictures of cute kids because it's 4-H. And you see Quincy there cutting cake at our festival that most of you attended.
I guarantee you.
Greg's in a chicken costume, and Cherie and Rhonda are definitely somewhere.
Yeah, well, there's archery in Panacea, there's the Wakulla Wonderful Festival, and then we've got a couple kids out at the Equestrian Center when we turned the lights on and did riding at night.
That was one of the few activities we had in Smith Creek. We did do 4-H. Robin Kyle was the person, right, Cherie? And I went to 4-H camp, I think 2 or 3 times.
That is
That's the first time I got to spend the night away from home.
No, did you go to Cherry Lake? Do you remember it?
I was a younger person at that time. I know it had water.
I think you were over towards Madison and Cherry Lake, 'cause we used to go there.
It had wooden cabins to sleep in. And there was like a
That was-
cafeteria, and there was almost like a skating rink kind of open area.
That was definitely Cherry Lake. Yeah, for sure.
Where's that at?
Over towards Madison. So now
the world, huh?
Now, yeah, there's a big lake there. We now have switched to going to Timpucci, which is in Niceville, and it's right on the bay across from Destin. The big difference there, air conditioning in the cabins, and the showers and bathrooms are in the cabins.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Yeah. So
I used air conditioning.
No, we didn't have AC
Check.
in my house.
Exactly.
Cherry Lake still does not have air conditioning or bathrooms or showers. So if you go there, the kids bring fans, and then they have flashlights at night to go to bathroom runs. So
And we
Yeah.
did the thing at the fair every year, competed in that.
We still do.
But, there's very few things to do in Smith Creek, and that was, we'd come to the hog barn for whatever reason, and it was good.
You will be glad to hear that even though the North Florida Fair is canceled, we are going to do some virtual competition. So we're going to still be able to do agriculture judging and showing with the kids. And you'll love this one, I think, as well. We are doing a statewide virtual swine club. So if we have interest in pigs in this county, we're going to figure out who those kids are.
I still have a table I made that I entered in the competition.
Awesome.
Got second place.
I want
Out of three.
Randy, I want to see it. All right, I'm going to turn things over to Greg because he's going to talk about numbers and then we can answer questions. And then I also, if it's okay, I wanted to give the chance if Cherie or Rhonda wanted to add anything about the programs.
Absolutely.
I
Thanks.
got a lot of questions for Cherie.
Come on, Greg. Tell us what it's gonna cost us.
Dr. Pienta, it sounds like we have a perfect volunteer we need to recruit.
Alumni.
That's right, alumni. So I'm going to bore you with some numbers. That's kind of hard to read.
I got
You're
that.
not going to bore us with those, Greg. We can't read them.
We have it.
I got it.
You have copies?
Yep.
Okay.
No, we don't have copies. We have it on our computers,
Oh, on
don't
your
we, Randy?
computer.
Quincy brought her computer with her finally.
No, whatever.
So on the left side of the page, we have the expenses based on a number of assumptions. The first one that we need to mention is this is assuming that we geared up, as Dr. Pienta said, both programs at the same time, and that they both immediately were going to be year-round. Due to COVID, obviously, and I think some construction issues at Panacea and remodeling that facility, this year would not be a normal year. So we didn't try to run any limited scenarios. This is full-blown if we went both routes immediately. The top left is the after-school program, both 30 children at Crawfordville and Panacea. The direct cost, which I believe your Word document outlines how that was comprised, would be $122,000 and some change, about $123,000, divided equally between the two because of the number of kids. Some of the variables, if you increase Crawfordville somehow to 40, then you could shift some more of the cost in one direction or the other. The indirect cost, which is the administrative position that 4-H will need in order to sort of coordinate this activity, the 82% there was done based on total annual hours. So the number of hours that would be needed to oversee one program versus the summer program down below, that's how I came to the 82%. That's an arbitrary number that I suppose we could change if we wanted to sort of spread it out between the two a little more. The length of the program is built around 36 weeks for the after-school program. That's another variable that certainly, as we've already mentioned with this year, probably would be a little bit limited. We wouldn't get started until, what did we say, March? Is that right? In the current year in Panacea because of COVID and because of the remodeling.
The construction.
Yeah, the construction primarily. So,
So Greg,
yes.
that length in weeks, it says 8 there for the summer camp program. Is that 8 different camps?
No, that-
A week each?
So how I would organize it is that I would have a theme for each week and that we would set it up so that if parents wanted to only put their child in for a week, they could, but they could come every week and they would get a different activity, just because we know that some parents are going to take their kids out on vacation, etc. So there's 8 weeks available, but they don't have to do all 8 weeks.
Okay. That's where I was trying to go with it.
This shows the full cost. So it showed the after-school program will cost $2,050 a week. It's $68 per child per week. So if we were going to try to recoup costs completely, we know exactly what the rate is. And you'll see that again in a moment over on the revenue side. Down below the summer camp, we've again taken the direct costs based on the number of employees and the part-time OPS personnel that would assist with the program, and then the administrative assistant that would sort of oversee this. You have the total cost there as well, and then the cost per week is $5,500 and some change, or $185 per child per week. And so that's how that is comprised. And we can, of course, pull back to whatever the board wants. And this year would certainly be, I mean, we're a year away from summer camp, so summer camp wouldn't be until next, what, June? June it would start, so. On the right side, there's each program has 3 funding options. There's 1,000 scenarios that we could approach this from. The first one is just to fully fund the program through fees. So you're going to charge $69 per child per week for 36 weeks, and you'll fully cover your cost. And we realize that's impractical and impossible for most of the kids to be able to afford to do that. But that shows you what it costs per child. Option 2 is having a sliding scale, and there are always issues with that. Particularly, and we haven't worked out the details on this, would you require parents to provide proof of income? There are parents in Panacea that probably won't be able to do that. So how we go about that sliding scale is a whole nother animal that we would have to try to figure out. But assuming we did a sliding scale, we've identified 4 categories. Family income of $60,000 or above, no free ride. You pay the full $69 per child. Now, how many people in Crawfordville can do that? I don't know. So you notice that we've allocated the 30 spots, 25% or 8 would be able to fit that criteria. That's a shot in the dark. We've just sort of picked some numbers. We guessed at maybe 3 in Panacea, because Panacea would also include MedArt and Sopchoppy. Is that right? Okay. So those factors, the 25% in Crawfordville, the 10% in Panacea, those would pay the full ride. And then at $40,000 to $59,900, we would charge about 2/3 of the rate, $41, and then at $30,000 to $39,900, you charge another 2/3 of that, or $14, and then less than 30, it's a fully funded scholarship that child pays nothing. Those are movable numbers. We can move the income levels, and we can move the rate per child. But with this model, you would generate between the two $61,000, and if you look over to the left, you realize the total cost is $147. So you still have $86,000 that needs to be funded. Whether the county puts in that full funding, or we have sponsorships and other entities that also assist, that's another hoop that we have to jump through to try to figure out where we're going to get that funding from. The third option is if we get the grant for Panacea. And the caveat with the grant is that you're not allowed to charge any of the children a fee. So even the children who could afford to pay won't. And so you lose that little bit of revenue, and we would allocate the roughly $97,000 a year, 73 of it to this program, and a little bit down to the after school or summer camp program. That's how your $97,000 would be used for 3 years. The grant would only be 3 years. The county funding in that situation would only be $35,000, and it would all go towards the Crawfordville program. Summer camp, pretty much the same thing. You can fully fund it, that's $185 per child. You can have a sliding scale. All of the assumptions are the same, based on 2/3, so your rates will be $185, $111, and $37, and then zero. The funding that would be needed from the county in that situation is $52,000. And again, if you got the grant, we would have $23,000, almost $24,000 left over that wasn't used in the after-school program. And then the county funding would only be more like $41,000, even if we got the grant. And then the third and the very bottom is combining the two with all three scenarios. So you have anywhere from county funding needed of $138,000, almost $139, to $76 if the grant is obtained. So I'll sit down unless you have any questions.
Y'all can thank me. He had 7 options when we first met last week, and I said, you better pare it down.
We went from 7 scenarios to 1.
It's impressive, David's math skills, yeah.
Okay, so those numbers include the part-time personnel that we need to, that OPS person.
Well, the administrative assistant.
Right.
And then your summertime help, which is, how many?
You say, well, you had multiple scenarios there. One scenario included the program assistant, the OPS are always included, the OPS.
Well, this one includes it all.
Greg, what's the county ask if we just did the Panacea program with the sliding scale?
County asked for the Panacea, if you did Panacea first and only, without the grant is $32,000. If you get the grant, it's 20 and some change.
And that's what we're here to talk
And
about.
that's, I'm sorry, I was looking at the summer camp. So, I'm sorry, it's $83,000 for both programs, the after school and summer camp, without the grant.
So I'm 5 days a week on after school.
Correct.
And Panacea only.
In Panacea only, and I'm summer camp.
And then a summer camp in Panacea only, that's gonna cost you $83,000.
Can you go to the microphone?
I'm sorry.
We do have public ones here.
Can you say that one more time?
So, one more time, if you instituted Panacea only, the ask for, it'll be $83,000 between the after-school program and the summer camp. If we get the grant, that would require funding of only $21,000, $20,365 for 3 years. Because after 3 years, the grant goes away, and then you would need $83,000 and some change.
You know, I fully support 4-H, but I also got to look the people in the face that are paying for their kids to go to these Parks and Rec program. We don't subsidize them to that tune, do we? We make them pay for it.
Well, to a degree.
Not to that tune, not to that tune.
Well, I don't know what tune, but none of the Parks and Rec programs charge the participant what it costs to, our ad valorem taxes supports those programs. Now, to what degree, we'd have to do some math and calculate that.
But not to the level that you're talking
Yeah.
about, that's for sure.
I mean, I have to be able to look people in the face and say, we're going to give Panacea $83,000 for 4-H. It's a deserving place, but what about any other group that comes up and says, hey, what about my program? I want $80,000 too. So that's what I got to think about. I mean, $20,000, but $80,000 a year. I mean, is there any option other than 5 days a week, or what are you doing now, and who's paying for it now? Right now, it's 1 day a week, right, Rachel?
So right now it is 1 day a week, and it is a combination of volunteers, fundraising, in-kind contributions. So the county provides the facility, the school district has provided some bus transportation, Panacea Waterfronts raises a significant amount of funds, and then I also pull in donations wherever possible, and that's for 1 day a week.
But we're going from 0 to $83,000 a year ask at one time, which is a tough pill to
Right,
swallow.
and I do hear that, Commissioner Merritt, and that's something that I have, considered going forward with this proposal. And, my talking points for you, for the community, would be that there are very few programs in the county that would be offering 5 days a week after school with the type of return on investment for the community that we could offer with this kind of program. And there's a lot of research to back that up.
And I wish it was all free. I agree with what you're saying 100%, but we have to figure out the
Right.
money, because the senior center could come up and say, hey, what about our seniors? You don't care about seniors? Or the animal shelter could come up and say, you don't care about animals.
That's not
Give
true.
us the money.
But we put money in those funds.
No, I know we do.
We-
I know we do.
Now, let me say this. If the board could buy into this, and we said, all right, the number that we could squeeze out and be able to help you guys with, I'm just gonna pull a number out of the air. Let's say we could do $50,000 a year. Then we could restructure those numbers like you talked about, Greg. And I'm telling you, the need is out there. I know that, and I believe, maybe not in Panacea, but in Crawfordville, a lot of people will afford and can afford and won't mind paying to have their children in that program. Panacea might not be able to. We may have to offset that. And I'm certainly willing to do that to help the folks in Panacea. But I'm just saying, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't mind just trying at Panacea at first and see how it works. But I really want to see a program in Crawfordville. I'm not going to be here much longer, but at the end of the day, I would love to see a program in Panacea, and I'd love to see a program in Crawfordville, because I think the need is there, and I think people are willing to pay that. You go get child care, or you get any other kind of care in the summer, especially senior kids on summer programs, you're going to pay far more than this, I promise you. So I don't, I'm sort of adamant about, I want us to get a good discussion today here and see what we can afford to do, and if it's whatever that number is, to facilitate the program in both locations. That's what I'm asking. So
You're advocating for the sliding scale rate?
Well, that's what I would say would be the best. When we talked, when Rachel and I talked to the lady over in Taylor County, she said that they fully funded their program. The county gave them some money, like a startup pot of money, but for the most part, she fully funded that and ran that program on fees. And
Right.
And she said she had a waiting list for kids to come into that program who wanted to pay full.
A key difference, Commissioner Stewart, of course, is that she's doing one location in Taylor County, and we're proposing 2 locations in very different demographic areas.
I understand that, but if we don't try to serve both communities, I think we're failing the whole county if we don't do that. So I just don't want to see us not be able to do both. If we can do one at first and start and see how it works, if it works, then maybe the next group of board members can say, all right, it works in Panacea, let's start it up in Crawfordville.
But there's also 2 components to each location, too. One is the after-school, and one is the summer camp. It sounded to me like the summer camp was expensive. I think it's probably the after-schools is probably more important than the summer camp. Just to back up a second, if we decided to fund the after-school program in Panacea without the summer camp, what would be the ask from the citizens?
So Panacea after-school program without the grant is $52,000.
And that's
That's a sliding scale.
sliding scale.
That's a sliding scale that we are guessing at the demographics. 1 year in, we will know the demographics much better, and we will be able to, A, adjust the fee, and adjust the income levels possibly. So we'll have to tweak it a year in.
Not to beat this to death, but how's Taylor County able to, we're talking one site here, Panacea versus whatever Taylor County's doing in one site. How are they able to fund it without the county paying for it? Because Rachel,
I don't know the answer to that.
earlier you said it was because we're doing 2 sites, but if
So,
we just
okay.
do one,
Taylor County basically has a formula that is some county support, and then they are charging fees. So the Taylor County model, I think, is very like what we could do in Crawfordville.
Okay.
It's Panacea that would be different. One thing that I think is important to mention is that if we did some investment from the county, I think that we could do fundraising. I mean, obviously grant writing, which we don't know how that always turns out, but in terms of getting county investment. So myself and some of our 4-H leadership have already started talking to stakeholders in the county to have conversations with our civic groups and some of our corporate entities to see would they come to the table to support a program like this. It has been received positively, but I don't have hard numbers yet because we're in the early stages. But given the consideration that we know that regardless of whether we can do a 5-day-a-week after-school program in Panacea, we want to do something that is regular, offers continuity, and continues sustainably in Panacea over time, so that we're not just dropping kids off a cliff without the adult relationships that they've started to develop.
And you said you're seeing returns even on 1 day a week, right?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, my understanding is, ladies, y'all can, Cherie and Ronnie, y'all tell me, the way I understood it, many of these kids who went to your program for that 1 day a week, that was sometimes the only hot meal they may have gotten that day or that week.
Come up to the mic.
You got,
Cheryl, do you want to throw something in there too?
What is the before and after school?
That's what I'm about to talk about too after Rhonda gets.
It probably is. I mean, we don't ask the kids if you get a hot meal at home, but a lot of them want to take whatever we have extra home for their families. I mean, everything from the food to we did mummy wrapping with toilet paper, and we had them wanting to take that toilet paper home.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't been down there to see what they do every Monday,
I mean, these
and it
kids have
changes
so
every
much to
week.
give, but they're not given a chance.
Right.
They don't have the opportunity that a lot of the other kids do.
Right.
There's probably 10 or more in our group that could take care of themselves and parents pay and not have a problem. But then we have the other, because we average 40 to 50 kids a week, and they don't have that.
What do you think the kids do Tuesday through Friday after?
Walk the streets,
Okay.
so,
find some trouble to get into.
so at least here they're learning some quality life skills that is important for life. I mean, that's what we got to try to look at. I mean, I know this is an investment from the county, but we're way overdue to do this. I mean, I feel bad for not having brought it up before now, so I'll take that.
Well,
but-
I felt responsible for not doing it in my community sooner, because when we started this, I was amazed at these kids. In the first week, I was like, what did we do? What did we get ourselves into? But as those kids learn to trust us, and they love us, they can't wait to get off the bus. Right now, the school bus drivers said, when are y'all starting 4-H back? These kids are asking every day. And we have still kept in contact with them ever since COVID. We go around on our golf carts or on the little tram and take food, ice cream, just something so we can keep in contact with these kids and they still see our faces. They come to our places of business just to say hey. I just gave 2 different families some books because the kids knew I had the books for them to read for school.
I think we can, you know, if we spend $52,000 a year to do Panacea and just have after school, and I'd love to see us have some summer programs, because I'm telling you, it's life changing. Randy, you said it. You went from Smith Creek and never been out of Smith Creek, but it is life changing. It's experiential learning like no other way to do it. But I'm telling you, Crawfordville, I don't believe will cost this much. I think the people in Crawfordville will be able to pay their way, and I think it'll be much less than what we're anticipating for the cost of being Crawfordville. But with that said, we need to decide what we want to, do as a board. And
Let me hear what Quincy's got to say.
Well, may I ask Cherie and Rhonda something?
sure.
So 1 day a week, the biggest thing, and I have been a very bad 4-H person in that I don't get to attend enough because it's on Monday, but 1 day a week, the biggest thing that you are missing is another person. Persons. So just from that element of them, I understand that the best thing to do is to go to 5 days a week, and I understand that that is also a definite need down there. I am I understand, Rachel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that perhaps we could do some other 4-H programs like archery was generous enough to do, to go to Panacea. If we could get the programs that we already have in place, and I know that all of this is hypothetical based on until we all get to be back together again. But if we could get the ones that are in place and they had the volunteers, that would relieve Cherie and Rhonda of having to be there. And those camps, we could say, this is the camps we're doing for 8 weeks in Panacea. This is how much it's going to cost. Do we have to make a decision today about how much it's going to cost?
No, I think, I'm trying to get a commitment from the board that we're going to fund such an opportunity to do this, and then, I mean, it's going to be in this fiscal year's budget, so we got to sort of budget for it, if you will.
Well, this is my only thing about that, and I know that that's what we're all here for today, is,
Next year. Budget this year for next year.
thank you, I forgot what I was going to say, Randy, not. If that's what we're doing for this year, with things being the way that they are right now, what can we do for them immediately to help the kids right now? And then the summer is hopefully a new time that they can actually get together. Is there some way to do, instead of reinventing the wheel, that we could do programs in Panacea for this summer with our other 4-H programs, so that we're not biting off 80,000 or 50,000, and that they are getting the relief and continuity that they need? If we just start off small with something that's 30 to 40 kids that they already have going, can we concentrate on that?
Well, you're talking about a summer program for next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that archery went and did a summer program for a week down there, right?
We all took days.
And that's what I'm saying. If the program itself had the amount of volunteers that were able for the children to sign up to be in, and it would alleviate the same 3 volunteers that are always in Panacea, is that something we could start with? Could we say, this summer we're going to pay for the 30 kids for a different week's camp in Panacea, and then next year come back and do it again, and then maybe do 2 days of after school this year? And I'm asking everybody because I want to see if is anything better than nothing to y'all.
Anything is better than nothing, but one thing with these kids,
They need continuity.
they need one person.
Yes.
They need her every day with them, because
Yes.
is a big issue.
Okay.
So in terms of more of, let's say, a hybrid program, Commissioner Messersmith, that yes, if we could do more than 1 day a week and have staff support, because remember that when our volunteers come, they're taking time away from their business. So Monday, for instance, was chosen because that's Cherie's dark day at the restaurant, and that was a day that Rhonda could get away from the store. So those things are important because our volunteers, are gainfully employed and have busy lives that they're taking away from to give to the community. So increasing it by a couple days would help. That would be lower cost on staff for sure, so the expenditure would be lowered that much. In summer, if you said we're not going to do an 8-week program, but we're going to do some programming, then that would give children something to look forward to, have a week of some nice program. It wouldn't give them continuity over the summer.
Okay, maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. If I did cooking for this week and Ken did archery for this week and all of the screen volunteers, if there was 8 weeks of continuity
Okay,
to
so
a
8 weeks of
program,
continuity.
not skipping around, I understand the trust part from y'all, but if we could be with them, I mean, I don't have the answer for that as far as the trust thing. I know that you would tell me, no, you need to be here.
Well, like, you've been there, so they've learned to trust you.
Okay.
You showed up, they've learned to trust Rachel.
Right.
They were really standoffish with Rachel at first when she would come and visit, but now, especially after going with her to the,
Capital?
Capitol,
Yep.
they fell in love with her and
Yep.
they're ready. They fell in love with you because you come and did the speak out, the talks.
Yep.
So that's the deal. As long as they see you, they learn to trust you.
Yeah, because it's not dropping in and dropping out. Well, she might, okay.
Well, Mike, I'm not adverse to voting to chip in some money to it, if that's what we're here to talk about.
You have something?
I had some questions. The amount of the grant is that dependent upon whether you have just Panacea or Crawfordville? I mean, is it scalable, or is, if you win the grant, you get 97,000 and you spend it how you wish?
The grant was written only with Panacea in mind. Crawfordville was not part of the discussion when we wrote the grant.
So if you got the grant, then it would be $20,000 from the county to make it the difference if we did just the after-school program? Am I reading that right?
I think that's what he said,
Are we saying that right,
Let's
Greg?
see, so the after-school program, look at the top right, number 3. The after-school program will be fully funded by that grant, $73,000.
Okay.
Then
So-
you take your other 24 or so of the grant and apply it to your summer camp, requiring a $21,000 funding from the county.
You get both.
You get both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, but we don't know the status of the
We
grant.
We
don't.
won't know until September 30th or maybe even,
I'm checking every day, but it hasn't been posted yet.
And really, from a budgetary standpoint, we're going to budget our reserves, and we can make those adjustments next year. It may be prudent to wait and see if we get that grant, and then reconvene a workshop to discuss it, because that's a game changer for sure.
I mean, I'd be fine with personally the Panacea, the 5 days a week, and, you know, if that ends up costing $50,000, I think I'd be fine with that.
Well, right now, unless they get the grant, that's gonna be a little more than $50,000. Okay.
That's not what he said for the,
Just the after-school
just
program.
after
Yes.
school.
And to me, that is more important than the summer program.
Of course.
And I know that's a lot of money, but at some point, we're going to have to put some money in Panacea. I mean,
So it'd be what, 73,000 if we didn't have the grant for just after-school for Panacea only?
No.
if we had the
Well, they're
sliding
saying
scale.
51.
No, because then you would go to your sliding scale, and it would be 52,000 for county funding there.
I got you. Okay.
And I would just say this, you know, we try to be very conservative in our budgeting, and we've always have. But you guys spend $80,000 by sneezing, honestly, with increase in road spending, but attorney's fees.
Yeah.
You guys will spend $50,000 in a heartbeat, and this is much needed. That's all I'll say
My
about
worry is
that.
we set a not dangerous, but set a precedence, so the next person that comes up and says, we want $50,000, we think that the animals are
But we're
just
not
as
given
important.
any, this is a county program that we're gonna work through 4-H with. We're not handing this money out to an organization.
Gotcha.
This is 4-H.
Well, that does make a difference.
It's gonna be paid position, just like Rachel is, and Pat is the,
So
Yeah,
we're
these
gonna call it
folks
an
will be county employees.
expansion of the recreation department, basically. is what
No,
it
we're
would be.
going to call an expansion of the extension office.
Extension.
Okay.
And so I just want to make sure, I have a question for you, and if you don't want to answer, that's okay. But with regard to, do we have any kids that participate in the senior center after-school program at MedArt, or are they not having that anymore?
They are having it.
Do any of our explorers participate in that program?
Not that I'm aware of. If there was, there might be like one.
Because I'm,
But I do not know.
That's a relatively expensive program.
it is, yes.
Protection is a program for these kids to get home.
So the
Okay.
school
Kids
said,
don't have.
unless they offer them a bus ride home, they can't go to any of the after-school stuff.
Well, and also, I can tell you this from having a child, I can't believe, Randy, having a child in the after-school program at MedArt is just a tick above, the senior center offers just a tick above child daycare.
Well, this
There's no
is an
instruction, there's no continuity, there's no structure, it's just willy-nilly. And it's really, it's not worth the money.
Well, that'll be
to me,
something.
other than it's just a daycare.
So, but we think you could do we got basically a budget to get started. You could do this in Crawfordville also?
We could duplicate the program, both programs in Crawfordville. I think the idea is to baby steps, because of a number of things, start off with Panacea because the need is greater there. And then once we've got our feet under ourselves and we have some better numbers and we realize the program's working, to duplicate it in Crawfordville. Now, I mean,
I agree. I say, pray for the grant, and if that doesn't happen, I'm willing to pony up some of
And I
the
don't-
taxpayers' money.
I don't know if it's the need is greater in Panacea. I think that it is one of those things that it's already working there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's help them by helping all of us figure out how to get that program. If that's what they know, the children, let's get it to 5 days a week. And it is baby steps, and I know that's probably not the outcome that you wanted today to just have after school, but it is a start. If we could maybe work something out with regard to the summer program with other things that we already have at 4-H going to Panacea. Only Rachel can tell me that later on down the road, and I know that it's not both places. Or do you,
What I had hoped, honestly, that I'd hoped to come out of here today with was a commitment that we would do the $52,000, and that would give them the after-school program and the summer program in Panacea. That's what I had hoped for,
I thought that was 80,000.
no, it's 52,000.
to do both.
Both of them is 83
83.
83,000, both of them,
without the grant.
without the grant, and with the sliding scale. My understanding is just the after-school is 52,000.
Okay.
I'm willing to do that, I'm willing to go that far, just,
Well,
at least to try it.
that's a start. I mean, I'll take what I can get at this point, but
But hopefully they get the grant, and if they get the grant, maybe we could drop back and do the summer camp and the
Let's hope
thing for
so.
Panacea.
And also keep in mind, if we start, if you guys approve it, once we get the prices and everything, which will probably won't be till December, it's gonna take about 2 or 3 months to renovate the inside of the,
Yeah.
so you're talking March, into March of next year before we're even gonna be able to crank it up, and that's all according to COVID at that time as well.
Now, in the
So
now,
it could be even further.
in the meantime, can Rachel go ahead and hire her assistant?
I wouldn't right now with a March start date and for Panacea.
Well, I'm saying,
Yeah, assuming all of that there'll be a timing issue when to hire.
Well, if we're gonna do the slide and scale, you may wanna see what kind of sign-up you have and screen those folks.
I think that is the
Yeah.
first thing to do too.
Mhm.
And I think the need is greater in Panacea. No offense, Cherie, but
but I'm just saying that she's gonna need an assistant to help run this program. I can
Oh,
tell
no
you
doubt
that.
about it.
Just knowing what we talked to the lady about over in
Yeah.
Taylor County, it's a big, big job.
So
She's
I,
gotta manage all that.
I would say that to kind of back out of that, to say that if we were going to start a program in March, the latest we could hire someone in order to onboard and train them, because you can't just put them in there and think they're going to know how to do things. March would be like February would be the latest. Really, January would make more sense. In terms of the sliding scale for Panacea, I think that what will probably happen to try to accommodate some of our youth is that that's where we're going to go to fundraising and sponsorship to make sure that we have kids who don't lose out because of ability to pay.
and the men's club gives lots of donations, I think, to 4-H.
They do. The Men's Club is one of several organizations that has been very generous. So
And I think once the word gets out, I think there'll be a lot of folks who will
And we'll give them more
pony
money.
up to do that, so, anyway.
If you get the grant, it's a 3-year, it pays for 3 years. Is there a number of years that you have to continue after the 3 years?
it doesn't, they have not said whether that particular program will be renewed. It has been previously, but it's hard to predict the landscape of grants at the federal level.
What it is, it have to carry on after that.
No, we don't have to commit to it. No, no. It's basically that's a 3-year, 36-month program, and then it's up to us what we do.
Okay.
I don't have a question.
All right, Cheryl was first.
Come on up here, Cherie, or who's Cheryl?
Come on up.
We're about out of time, guys. We only got 2 minutes, so I need y'all to go quickly.
$8 fee for your background scanning and screening and fingerprint. I don't know where you got that from.
That is what we currently pay for our volunteers through the state.
Well, it might be, I can check, but it might be, it only cost us $22 to the county. That's for background and fingerprint. We have that ability in our office, so I might check on that if you'd like. That's
Can you
what
do
we might-
level 2
We
with
can,
it?
we can look with the weapons, that's usually the map.
If we could figure that out, that might save some money.
And it's right here, you come in and just get it, so that might help. I'll check on it for you.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
you want to?
Okay.
No, I just have a question for Rachel on the grant that we applied for. Is there any special, I know it had a lot to do with drug abuse, or is some of the daytime activities have to, is there special, counselors we have to have come in? or
So what happens is that with the grants, how I've written it is that myself and Samantha Kennedy at the extension program will get trained on an additional level of curriculum called life skills training. And we'll get trained on that, which basically is train the trainer. And then we will use that to layer over our 4-H curriculum, basically to enrich our curriculum. And the staff that we hire will be trained on that. Basically, it's an infused program. So it basically teaches you how to help kids develop decision-making skills, how to do personal communication, and it's just teaching strategy. So we wrote that into the grant because it is one of the most respected evidence-based programs that the Department of Justice approves of.
Okay. So to wrap it up, we're out of time, but so what I understand is that sounds like we're in agreement to move forward with funding tentatively for the after-school program only in Panacea to help assist in that. And then if the grant comes, we'll be able to use that same money to maybe do both after-school and summer program. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay?
Yep.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys for what you do in your community. Mr. Ree and Rhonda, y'all do a lot of work down there for those folks.
Can I ask one more question? And I'm sorry, we didn't hit on this, but are there any measurable, how are we going to measure the success or the failure of the program?
So it depends on what you want to measure. We can work with the school system to say that we want certain deliverables. We can ask the sheriff's office what they think indicators of success are. If we had the grant, there is a rubric that the federal government will give us to basically, which will require me to work with the school system and the sheriff's department to basically look at indicators of behavior and whether it's school achievement or crime in the community.
Okay.
Hopefully we get the grant, that way those metrics
Yeah.
can be established.
We can probably apply the same rubric whether or not we get the grant.
That's what I was thinking.
Performance measurements, right?
We could. We definitely could. I think we might want to not use as much as the grant requires.
Yeah, Rachel
It's
liked
like
that
many
idea.
pages.
You had something else?
I just have one more question too. If some magic money tree started growing and we could fund for every child in Panacea that wanted to, that every child in Panacea could be paid for minus the sliding scale, would the $52,000 stay there? Would it be used as needed? Could we build up that? Would any of that work, Greg?
Roll that into summer program.
Something, yeah, I don't know, but some way of,
So what I would love to see in that case is, let's just say somehow we are able to fully fund it and we don't need the $52,000, that we put that aside for, let's say we get the grant.
okay,
We put that aside for year 4 and year 5 and year 6. So you're building a fund balance up sort of within that program so that when the grant does go away, you've got some money there to continue it for year 4, 5, or 6.
okay.
And then if it somehow goes away and the program dissolves, then it just finds its way back into the general fund again.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
I'm not going to be happy until we have both a Panacea and a Crawfordville.
I understand that completely.
I mean, I'm going to be back either standing on that side or
I
here on
expect
this side.
Commissioner Stewart to get the level 2 background check and become one of our volunteers.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Thank you everyone very much. As I mentioned, I will be back at 5 with a couple of our 4-H youth who need to take a picture to celebrate winning our speech contest we did this summer.
Okay.
So you'll see me again this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you,
All right, we gotta-
Rhonda and Cherie.
Call the
Yes,
executive
go
session.
into the back
Order.
here.
Hold on,
Hold on, you gotta call the
Sorry.
meeting to order, don't you?
Okay.
All right, we'll call